Hello, good evening. We'll call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners. October 16th. Can we do a roll call, Joanne?
Commissioner Ernst?
Can you hear me?
Commissioner Ernst?
Here.
Commissioner Engel? Commissioner Rollins? Commissioner Vogelsang? Here. Commissioner Wright?
Any changes to the agenda tonight? Yes, we are going to add a public comment section to after the third regular business for any comments that'd like to be made on the Miller Lake presentation and the Boca Paddle Club presentation. 3 minutes. Okay. So we'll do our first round of public requests to start.
There we go. Okay, for the record, Robert Duquette, 5351 Northwest 3rd Terrace. At the last meeting, I handed out some of your historical documents regarding the authorization of what the Beach and Park District is allowed to do under your authority under the special act. Unfortunately, that did not make it into the minutes, so I will go over this again. And I'll ask you what your plans are, if any, to rectify the situation that you're currently acting outside of your scope of authority under the special act. Specifically, as I pointed out the last meeting, you received a letter from the Attorney General's office indicating that you're not allowed to sell, lease, or otherwise convey property. And then the other information I handed out was a copy of your ILA on the purchase of the North Park property in 2018. Specifically in that document, it indicates that you conveyed property as a part of that transaction to the city of Boca Raton. I did not see any comments about that subsequently, and I just would like to know what, if anything, the district is planning on doing to rectify this situation. Because now the next thing is you're getting into a gray area about the definition of convey when it comes to your concession plans for pickleball. So again, as long as it's legal for the concession, that's fine. But I'm sure that it specifically says in black and white in the ILA that the district conveyed the property to the city, which is in direct violation of the special act under your June 2020 letter from the Attorney General's office, which specifically stated that you're not allowed to do that. Okay. So if you would, please make sure that's in the minutes so that we can have this properly on the record. Thank you.
Anybody else? No? Okay, we will close. Oh. Did you want to do it now or after? Okay. Okay, we'll go ahead and close public unless there's anybody online. Oh, that's right. Closing public requests, and we'll do approval of the minutes of the previous board meetings held on October 2nd. Move to approve.
Second.
Commissioner Ernst?
Yes.
Commissioner Engel?
Yes.
Commissioner Rollins?
Yes.
Commissioner Vogelsang?
Yes.
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Motion passes.
On to regular business, Ocean Strand, AmeriCorps change order.
Commissioners, on page 7 of your agenda packets is the AmeriCorps change order, which we discussed at the last meeting, and it was approved pending receipt of the payment from the grantee of the construction easement that we granted on the Ocean Strand property. Since that meeting, it was presented by our legal counsel to their legal counsel. They have been non-responsive, so I will let Jacob take over explaining the next steps for getting.
Evening, Madam Chair, Commissioners. As Brianne indicated, Following the direction at the last board meeting, we reached out to counsel for JJ Morley to convey the district's intent with regards to the work yet to be completed at Ocean Strand. I'm reluctant and sad to report that the counsel for JJ Morley has been wholly non-responsive to all of our efforts. They have not returned phone calls. They have not responded to emails. So we're left in no better a position than we were in when we last brought this to you at your last meeting. As you all are aware, back in November of 2021, the board and the district entered into a temporary construction easement with JJ Morley with regards to access and as a result, some certain improvements on Ocean Strand. The grantee in that relationship is, as I indicated, entirely non-responsive. There were certain obligations that they were required to complete upon conclusion of their work, which they have failed to do. The easement contemplated some improvements to the tune of about $38,250. There is a change order in the backup on tonight's agenda, which you also considered at your last meeting, to go ahead and complete that work through our vendor AmeriCorps. We've done some preliminary research, and at this point, we'd recommend, if the board was willing and saw so inclined, to approve the change order and to authorize AmeriCorps builders to go ahead and complete the work that was required as a result of the temporary construction easement. I would also ask for your authorization and direction this evening to file a lawsuit against JJ Morley, who is the grantee in that easement relationship. For the record, the easement does have a prevailing party attorney's fee provision in the document. So to the extent that the board would authorize us to pursue damages against JJ Morley, we would certainly seek the recovery of any fees and costs associated with that effort. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I know we've had some private briefings on this matter. You're all certainly familiar with the issue, given the discussion at the last meeting. I am, again, sad to report that their counsel and the grantee in this matter has been entirely non-responsive, and we need to elevate the relationship in this discussion to the next step. And unfortunately, that may result in some litigation.
Anybody have any comments or questions? Susan?
The violation of the bar for them to not respond?
I never want to grade the papers of another lawyer. I will say, as a matter of professional courtesy, it is a little off-putting to at least not get the courtesy of a returned phone call or a returned email. Since our last meeting, we've reached out to their counsel no less than 4 times, both by phone and then another probably 2 or 3 times by email. And while during the course of this relationship, their legal counsel has been quite responsive, for the past 2 weeks, we have gotten radio silence from that end. So it's a little disappointing.
Brianne, are we asking for just the 62,272 or the additional
So-
change orders?
So the minimum that they were required to do was restore the area that they used for the easement, as well as the resurfacing of the asphalt. So the minimum that they were required to do would be the 62,272.
And then for the record, the easement documents reference certain work in the amount of just shy of $40,000, $38,250 to be specific. We would seek recovery of the entire cost, any expenses incurred by the district as a result of our own need to mitigate the conditions and restore the conditions on the property. Their defense undoubtedly would be that there is a limit as far as their exposure at the $38,250, but we would certainly pursue the full amount, including any attorney's fees and costs that were incurred.
As I recall, the contract had something in there specifically for the asphalt, which was separate from the landscaping. And so I was wondering if we could exclude the asphalt part of it and still recover the asphalt separately. But the reason I hesitate is just that there's other work that needs to be done on Ocean Strand, and I'm not sure that we're ready to put a final lift of asphalt on there. Or why should we spend that money if we're going to, potentially build bathrooms or other things? So just hold off on that.
Okay.
Is it true, though, that the contract,
Yeah, so the original contract had a dollar amount attached to the work for the repaving of the asphalt pathway. It was a little over 38,000. But the rest of the work was not priced out because it was just to replace what they,
so you need this work to be,
this needs to be done to
this
restore
needs
the
to be done
property.
now,
Yes.
excluding the asphalt.
Yeah.
So I would say you could recover the 38,000 and you can recover this part.
We would pursue all, certainly we
Yeah.
would pursue
Sure.
it all. Absolutely right.
I'm assuming I can't assume. Assuming that the defendant is non-responsive to our litigation, could we also go to court to recover any assets that they might have? Not only as a as a company, but also for the officers of the company, since it's their actions that are the cause of all this. I mean, they make the decision whether to respond to us or not.
The answer, Commissioner, is potentially. You know, JJ Morley is a Georgia company. They're based out of Alpharetta, Georgia. They do business in the state of Florida. They are still an active organization within the state of Florida. We've researched their corporate records to ensure that they remain solvent. They have not gone bankrupt so far as we're aware. They're still an active company. We would pursue recovery against both the corporate entity, and to the extent that there was an option or a possibility to recover against any individual member of that corporation, we'd certainly consider that as well. One of the things I'd like to just raise for the record is the district has a very long-standing relationship with the law firm Johnson and Selma, who's our insurance defense counsel. You all may know Mike Piper, who's one of their shareholder partners who does a lot of work. They also do quite a bit of plaintiff's work. We'd like to consult with Mr. Piper and his team as well, just from a plaintiff's perspective, to see if there's any opportunity to co-counsel on that matter. From a cost perspective, we certainly would have no redundancy of effort, and any fees, whatever our office would ultimately charge, they would similarly charge as well. So there'd be no additional cost to the district. But they have a very long-standing relationship with this particular district, and we'd like to be able to consult with them just from a plaintiff's perspective to see if they have any other thoughts, particularly with regards to piercing the corporate veil.
I thought Craig had an excellent point when we voted unanimously to sue them for $92,000, which included the alternatives on there. And is there any reason? I mean, if we're limited to the contract that was signed to those damages, is there any possibility of us collecting more than what's in the contract, Jake?
Well, there's, as Brian indicated, there's certain things they're required to do with regards to asphalt, re-landscaping, and making some other improvements to restore the property to its condition when they found it. Some of those costs are included within the agreement. Some of those costs are not.
Okay.
So we would certainly pursue recovery of all of the obligations that they had under the terms of the agreement, and the change order in your backup reflects those improvements.
Well, we did pass that unanimously, that we would sue them for the alternatives in the work order plus an additional 10% for managing the project, or a total of 92,000. And I would I mean, that motion was made. So as far as I know, we don't have to do another motion, do we?
Motion was not to sue. That motion was to have AmeriCorps do the work if they wrote the check to us. We were trying to work this out without actually going through a lawsuit. And so Commissioner Ernst had added the extra money in to cover staff costs and things like that, that we wouldn't get through a lot, like we wouldn't be able to pursue more damages. So he wanted them to pay the extra on top of it, but they've been non-responsive to that. So now the next step is that we do want to sue them for the
Okay,
damages.
So we
have
need-
to
But I
approve
would
this
ask for a
tonight.
motion authorizing that lawsuit, and also approving the change order, which will quantify the damages. I know there was a $92,000 figure that was discussed at the last meeting. Once we have an actual concrete number as to what it costs to remediate that property, we'll be in a better position legally to recover those costs.
All right. Then I would like to make a motion that we proceed to litigate the matter and establish what the actual costs are to include in that litigation. And I don't guess we have to put in an amount in that
No,
at this
it would be
point, do we?
correct.
Okay,
We approve the
okay.
change order and authorize litigation. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, just clarification. We're approving the change order for the 62 or for all the work, the extra work included?
My motion was for all the extra work
Okay.
included.
Thank you, Commissioner.
He seconded. This discussion. So the 62,000 is going to include the asphalt overlay. And so, but it's not going to include the all the other work, the milling, and there's another 15, 17 to 18,000 there.
That was included in my motion, Craig.
Okay,
To
so,
get to the 92,000 plus. you know,
okay, so go to
10%.
the
Yeah.
92,000.
Right.
Plus,
Okay,
yeah.
plus,
Right.
okay. Okay, and last question, I won't belabor it, is it, I thought that the contract, they are contractually obligated to pay a specific amount for the asphalt.
Correct.
That is how much?
$38,250.
So they're,
If I may, we had a proposal back in October of 2021 for that specific improvement in that amount with Solid Rock Paving Company.
So they're under contract to put the landscaping back the way it was and pay us 38,000, no matter what the cost is for the land, for the,
Upon termination of this agreement, being the easement, the grantee, who is JJ Morley, shall repave the entire asphalt roadway located within the easement property in accordance with the proposal provided by Solid Rock Paving Company dated October 25th, 2021 for $38,250.
okay.
That is their obligation. to them.
That's their obligation to put
Correct.
that amount. So
That amount for the asphalt, correct?
for the asphalt, if they, so my question is, we got a new number here for this, and it's got a bunch of other items in it. Do we want to do the asphalt work now? Do we have to do the asphalt work now? Because you still got things to do out there at Ocean Strand. And you're just embarking on another project, and that's my open question. Do we want to do this, or can you go forward with what you need to do to sue them for the full amount? Here's your 38,000, here's your re-landscaping stuff, and not do the asphalt work.
The asphalt is quantifiable under that prior proposal. We would work with Brianne certainly from a timing perspective. We don't want to do work and then have to redo the work, obviously. Just
Right.
from a timing perspective, we want to make sure it makes most sense when to do that work. We have the amount of the asphalt that's embedded in the contract.
Yep.
There's the additional work with regards to restoration of vegetation and other remediation on the property they're required to do, which is included within the AmeriCorps quote, separate and apart from that asphalt.
Okay,
So we may not need to go ahead with all of those steps now. We would certainly monitor the timing to make sure that it made most sense to do that work at the appropriate time.
no worries. Okay, so I get it. So I guess the question to our group is, do you want to do the asphalt work now, or do you want to wait? I mean, we never did any kind of parking or anything like that. What we did was we did design of a walkway, a pathway, and that was it. But we never really finished out all the thoughts around it. So we can do that and do
Well,
it now.
because it took us 2 years to get the pathway done, I think. So I say we just do this and we get the asphalt completed now, because we don't know when we're going to be moving forward with anything. And even if we are, we don't know if we're going to be putting bathrooms out there. We never even really discussed that. Right. So my opinion, I think we should just go ahead, let them do their thing with this, and we get the work done. And that way it's the entire property is then finished to where we need it now at this point. Okay.
It occurs to me, since the quote we got from Rock Solid is now 2 years old, that it will cost more than 38,000 and change to do the work. Counselor, can we recover that additional money?
Pursue the entire amount it costs to make that property whole.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, right.
Yes, the change order, yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Commission. Excuse me, Madam Chair and Commission.
On to Miller Lake North Park site plan update.
Commissioners, on page 9 of your agenda packets is a just one item that Miller Lake is going to go over tonight. Representatives are here to talk about the site plan approval process, where we are with that, and talk about some of the things that are going to be required as we move forward with this project. So I'll let Mike take over.
Good evening. Again, just as Brianne said, just a kind of a quick update status of where we are in the process for North Park. As you know, we've been moving forward through the site planning process with design work and collaboration with the various permitting agencies. So I'm going to have Lumi kind of start off with where we are in this process.
All righty. So just want to brief you where we are in the process. A few of you guys, this is also on the website as well, but just to walk you kind of through, we've been through the pre-application conference with the city. So this was back in ending of June. We submitted the application at the beginning of June. Towards the end of June, we had the pre-application conference with the city. And this kind of was just guiding us through the whole process and the initial. So they already kind of got a head start on what our site plan kind of looked like, and were able to guide us. Then the next phase was the planning advisory review, that this is right before the site plan. We did this ahead of time and provided the city our plans, what we currently have, just to see the feedbacks, and then we received comments, and all these comments are going to be targeted in the site plan submittal. So this was back ending of July. From there, we did have the joint meeting with the district and the council, the city council, which in this meeting, we agreed that we were going to be continue coordination in this project, which is a priority for both. So this was back ending of almost of August. And then from there now we're aiming for site plan submittal in November. Now, we will discuss a couple of the requested kind of items by the city through the comments that we received in the planning advisory review, and actually ongoing coordination that Brianne and the district has been aware of as well. All right, we're in. So this is the site plan that the city was able to review, as well as presenting in a joint meeting. And this is the second portion of it, the location.
Lumi, we have to get you on the microphone, just for the folks online. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So this is the location, the second the parcel where the trails is located at. And this is where the Boca Padel Club racket sports facility would be located at, and which we are coordinating as well in the future.
As part of the comments from the city, they requested that we prepare a traffic impact study. So we're going to study the intersection of Northwest 2nd Avenue with Jeffrey Street, and also Northwest 2nd Avenue with 67th Street. And the city also requested that we construct a shared use path between Jeffrey Street and Northwest 67th Avenue, 67th Street.
And so that that shared use path on 2nd Avenue is.
Mike, we need to get your name. Sorry.
Sorry about that. But this is on the east side of 2nd Avenue that runs from Jeffrey Street up to 67th Avenue. So that's one of the requests that we're working through with the city. They want to widen that sidewalk to an 8-foot shared use path. Yeah, absolutely. So you can see.
Question. That's not really on our property, right? Correct. So why are we responsible for widening that sidewalk?
So I think that's something that will, as we go through the formal permitting process and such, that will be something that they requested.
Okay.
Our goal is to counter that with the city. I mean, we're not just going to accept that. They're just presenting this information tonight informationally. These are the things that we are working through now with the city. And this is one of their requests. I've already started a conversation with the assistant city manager about it. We're certainly not just going to do it without questioning it more.
That's what I was going to say. So if they've requested it, must be vague enough for us to be able to say we denied your request. Doesn't make any sense since it's not on our property.
Maybe updated next week. I don't know, but right now it's vague enough that we could counter it. So.
Correct. Again, just the reason that we're bringing some of these items up, so you're aware of those things, and Brianne's aware of. The next thing I want to bring up to you is one of the things that we're proposing to do, so we maintain as much canopy or shade within the park itself, is to develop a management plan for especially the east side of the property, between the property and the railroad tracks. That area is primarily exotic and nuisance plant species, so non-desirable plant species. But if you clear that whole area to plant native plant species, you're going to be exposed right to the railroad tracks with no shade for anybody in the park on that east side. So what we've proposed to the city, and they want us to explore this a little bit more, is to go in and remove a majority of the understory of exotic plant species, okay? But what we're proposing is to leave some of the larger trees in the interim so that we do have a canopy for the park users. And then to develop a master plan based upon how the native plants that we plant grow and start and forming a canopy for the users on the east side. As that canopy matures, then we'll sequentially or phase out and remove the exotic plant species that we left in that area. So again, it really is a kind of a transition. Right now we have 100%, or I won't say 100%, 80% invasive or exotic plant species canopy. We have 0 native. So what we're looking at doing is developing a management plan by, as we plant native plant species and their canopy increases, we will reduce the canopy of the exotic plant species. So it'll be a phased approach. So the city wants to understand how we do this. And that's what we're developing now, is to be able to explain that a little more clearly with them, and then give them some parameters on how to monitor that, how we're actually executing that as we go forward. So again, the desire is we want to remove all the exotic and nuisance plant species from the site. But if we do that, we're going to have a desert on that east side and exposed to the railroad tracks. So what we're really trying to do is have a little bit of a transition plan, a management plan to afford that transition from exotic plant species to natural plant species without sacrificing significantly the canopy for the park. So that's another thing that we're working on right now. Yes.
So is there a cost to that? I've always kind of operated on the philosophy, start where you want to end. I mean,
Right.
so if this whole transition plan, you got to give the city a, measure every tree, take one down every other year. I mean, it sounds like a lot of cost, a lot of time and
Yeah.
work for everyone.
And again, you could do it all at once. Okay. And so really how we looked at it is from a constructability or cost perspective. It's not going to be a huge difference because you would take those big trees out anyway. But what we're trying to do is to phase that. And to be able to, like I say, keep that canopy for the users of the park, the visitors in the park and such. So yeah, we'll have to monitor that, and we'll have to come up with a plan, but it's going to be a plan that is as easy as possible to monitor as we go forward. We're not going to make it a complex calculation, to justify the removal of those trees, but really it's just a simple metrics that we would be able to use to do that.
Will there be any effect at all on the wildlife in the area? And I'm worried not about the predatory or invasive wildlife, but just the wildlife that would be there in any event, the native
Sure,
wildlife.
sure.
What kind of effect would this have, if any?
Actually, I think it will have a positive effect, because what we're going to do is ultimately plant native plant species that would encourage pollinator species as well as the natural the species that live there. So we're really not. So our desire is to have those wildlife species inhabit the habitats that they're supposed to be in, rather than making do with exotic plant species. So that's the desire. And what we're going to be doing is we're actually going to do a experimental area to kind of demonstrate this. So this will be about 1.5 acres in size. And it is just where we're proposing it is just north of where the maintenance facility is, right there, right in that area. So it'd be just north of Jeffrey Street, easy access. And Commissioner Ernst kind of answers the question of, how we do this cost effectively. We're trying to put it in a location that would get easy access to it. We can clear the understory, keep the overstory, and show the city how this is going to look, and you all too, obviously, how this is going to work and how this is going to be managed as we go forward with the project.
I like the idea because of the sight line that you've got the condominiums, and then also the activity along the rail. I think that, you know, any buffer that we have would be helpful. Now, I've walked back there, and I don't know that there's any wildlife back there because it's so overgrown. I mean, it's really bad. It looks really bad. And the question that I was thinking is, what happens to that canal that's right behind there? Because it's so overgrown. I mean, you barely see the fact that there is water in there because of the growth that's on the top of it. So is that going to be removed? Will we have to remove that, or?
The canal is going to stay because that is Lake Worth Drainage District. That's one of the drainage facilities of the Lake Worth Drainage District. So that's going to be maintained. The exotic plant species that are growing into the canal right now will be cleared. So it actually flows actually better. It's a better system.
Well, to that question, I've seen what the county, the Lake Worth Drainage District has done to the canals by carving it back off the bank, you know, like, and so that's what the reason I was asking that question. What do you anticipate that the Lake Worth Drainage District is going to do that would affect our ability to provide that buffer?
Yeah, I mean, in the existing condition is now they have limited, if no access. We will provide them with, we're not going to anticipate it's going to be a sodded path right adjacent to it. We'll have to have, we'll maybe limited from like type of tree species. We would have to be able to plant close to the edge of the canal, but we would still have shrub and herbaceous species adjacent to it.
Okay, I just didn't want them to carve it back so far, you know, like if you go up to 67th, I guess that's where it is, you know. I mean, they really did pull the bank back, and it cleared a lot of things that might fall in the canal during. I don't know whether that's the same. I mean, that east-west canal may be have a little different flow than something north and south. So
absolutely, yeah, that's more of a primary canal, and this is more of a tertiary headwaters type system. And I know Martin's been discussing it with them already. And they haven't indicated that we have to do a new cross section or anything for that canal. Thank you.
Regarding the traffic study, they're going to open up Jeffrey Street. That's going to skew everything that you guys are trying to accomplish at this point. How has the city weighed in on that?
And again, I think they're still, you know, reviewing that and trying to figure out how that can get done. I think what they're looking at is just, you know, on the current impacts. What would it have on the current impacts on those existing intersections and with the proposed uses we have at the park right now? So yes, it's kind of an interim study. You know, it wouldn't be at the end of the day, but what they're looking at is just how it's going to affect the current conditions.
I do want to emphasize that by code, we are required, once you're developing a site, you are required to remove invasive species. So they're willing to work, the city is willing to work with us with a management plan. So. Okay. And I did want to talk to you guys a bit of sustainability. As you know, this park is to be best of all practices, and sustainability is important to us. We've been with our sub-consultants looking at sustainable sites. And by what we have currently with our design, we would be able to get that certification, leading us to actually be the first public park in all of Florida to get that certification, which is great. Kudos for this park, as well as we could work with them to even strive for silver certification. So. Right, thank you guys.
Thank you. No, I don't know, what's the extra cost for the certification for the sites? Do you know? Okay. It's less than $10,000 though, right? Yeah. For like the actual, the registration and the certification. Yeah. Okay. Right. Right. Okay. Okay, so we need a yeah.
in line with the traffic study that they talked about, I was looking tonight for a motion to approve this additional work as presented in the agenda packet, so they can start that process.
Motion to approve the traffic study and whatever Mike has to do to keep us going in positive direction for the North Park.
What are we approving? I mean, we haven't heard yet from the Butters Group. So just the traffic study, but what I'm saying is the design of the park could be adjusted or changed or not.
This is only significant to the site plan that they're submitting. So they may actually, the city may actually go and tell the Butters Group, you also have to do a traffic study. We did get a copy of the traffic study the city has done as part of their Jeffrey Street extension, which we're reviewing and seeing what can be applied there, but this will be required for our project as well. This is part of the city's site plan approval process.
So I guess I'm trying to get to, okay, that I understand the traffic study, but I like to make sure it's used efficiently so that not every little thing we do has to have another traffic study done on it, but maybe it does. I don't know.
These requirements that are part of the site plan process are not always black and white with the city. So the city may say, okay, the Butters Group can use your traffic study, but they may also go through and tell them, we need to know the impacts of your building and how that's going to impact traffic over there. So I mean, I wish I could tell you clearly like what the city is going to require of everybody, but we've learned it's just not black and white. But we'll probably be required to do another traffic study when we do the west side as well. It's just
But should
these are specific points that they've given us that we need to cover to move forward with the site plan process.
So the only site plan I have really seen is the northeast part. What is presented here for the southeast part is the first time we're seeing a little bit more level of detail, but yet we haven't seen anything from the Butters Group. So I'm real comfortable with the hills. I'm not comfortable with the trails. So I don't understand how you can.
Butters Group project will not be part of this site plan process. That's a separate site plan process that they will go through.
So the Butters Group will be limited to the 6.5 acres, and we're not talking about.
I don't know that it's specifically 6.5 acres, but because they may expand that. But this is for the park elements that we're putting in with the trails, the dog park, the maintenance facility, the playgrounds, the picnic pavilions.
That's in the hills.
This is the hills and the trails. has
Okay,
that.
so I'm not with you then on the trails part of it. I understand that, and I'm saying I'm not with you on that until we've had further conversation.
Voted on the master plan that it was all encompassing that you guys had for us.
We
that
did
we
not.
approved.
We did not. We talked, it was the first time seeing it in some level of detail at the joint council. So I just don't agree with this design because we've talked about the hotel site as a property site that could be, developed into something with it. And further, the way that design is, you're locking yourself in. The whole back half of it is now very limited. So, I mean, I thought what we were going to do is see more from what, from a developer's perspective, how would they best utilize the property first before this, but you've got kind of the cart before the horse, is my opinion. So I'm just not in agreement with.
No, in my opinion, we approved the entire master site plan, which is what Lumi and Mike went ahead with. That's what we went forward with.
That was a very conceptual watercolor drawings of things. It was never kind of finalized in any way or form. So.
Go ahead.
It's my understanding that all we're approving tonight is funding for the traffic study. And other than that, we're not approving any additional funding, any changes in design or anything else. This is, I think what we have here are two separate issues. I understand what you're saying, but this is strictly for a traffic study. This has nothing to do with what we might do with the actual plan for the park, whether we're going to change it, keep it as what we saw, or do something else entirely. So I think that's what we need to concentrate on for tonight, is just approving the funding for the traffic study and then go from there.
Here's why I'm questioning it, Steve, is that I guess it was like 6 years ago, we talked about putting a trail in Ocean Strand. and we developed a trail on Ocean Strand, and that became our master site plan. That's it. We couldn't do anything other than what we did with that. It was it. And so what you have here is what you're going to get.
This very well may be, but I think it's kind of like two separate issues. We're just talking about a traffic study. We're not talking about what other components. The fact that we have an outline of where the Boca Paddle Club will go is, I think, more for positioning than anything else. That property may be larger, or may be smaller. There may be other components that we can put in, but for right now, the city asked Miller Lake for a traffic study based on what we're gonna have. We talked about in vague terms about putting a hotel in, but I don't know that that's even doable. And it certainly wasn't part of this. So I think let's just go ahead with what we're being asked to do now. And then going forward, we can talk about all the other things.
I see Craig's point. And if Mike, if we were to modify this the southern section of this any further, would that have any effect on the would we have to do another traffic study of following what Craig's line of reasoning, if we opted to put some type of habitational property, a hotel or some other physical plant on that property, would that then require us to do another traffic study?
I guess I'll
bringing
answer
more
the-
traffic to the
Yeah,
project at that
I guess I
point.
would answer it this way is how this has been structured is to go in with a site plan for what we have shown here. A hotel or something of that nature, a higher intensity use would be, significant change from this site plan. So it would generate obviously trips and would require, additional traffic study for sure.
But wouldn't that be the responsibility of whoever's building the hotel, not us, right?
But and we're not going to be locked into what I mean. We've got some designs here with trails there on the southern part of this property, but and I think that's what we showed the city that we were looking at. But I don't know that. I mean, to Craig's point, we're not locked into that in the sense that if we came back and said, well, we want to modify this a little bit, and maybe in the southwestern section of this, we want to put in a playground. That's not going to be an issue that we'd have to deal with denial of a permit for that. I mean, when you do a parcel like this, is this where you have a canvas where we're trying to put something down that we can see how this lays out? But if we decide later on after we get in there that the layout is not working for us like we thought it could, we could modify that, right?
You can always amend a site plan. Yes, yes, you can. Again, the intent of a site plan is to really understand and approve, and it's not a building permit. Once you get a site plan, you can't build it, already. But what it does, it starts tying you down spatially, how that parking lot works, the setbacks from the adjacent properties. Now, again, would the city view adding a playground the same as a hotel? Absolutely not. But I think that this site plan, if it was recreational use, a passive recreational use that was modified in some way, that's definitely.
Well, but to the other hand too, Mike, I mean, one of the site plans we saw somewhere very early showed some like a little boutique hotel, stuck in the middle of the property there that might provide support for, other activities in there. And I'm not talking about a Hampton Inn or Holiday Inn, but some boutique type facility that would not be, unsettling to the neighbors. Because I mean, that's I'm just speaking in general. I'm not
Sure.
suggesting that that's what we're
Right.
doing. I'm just trying to follow Craig's logic regarding the site plan. I mean, the traffic study. if by going ahead with this, and as Brian said, I think another site plan might be required at any point, based upon the prerogatives of and the variety of opinions that might be that are not written as well into the documents that the city is looking at, where they have a little variance in their opinion about what could go there. I respect Craig's opinion, which is leading to this discussion, but I think if you believe we can go forward with a traffic study so we can move the project forward, because I wouldn't want to delay things while we're trying to figure out what we're putting on the southern part of the property.
Sure.
So,
And I would, I mean, just to kind of keep this rolling, I think I would recommend that. That is something that the city said they need to have to continue the process moving forward. So, again, it's based upon the uses that we have here. You know, we can always add, you know, an additional use or something within the park, but again, they're probably going to want to scrutinize that, and you know, it's going to be very hard to say, okay, well, there's an undescribed or a potential alternative use in the middle of the park for whatever, commercial or housing or something. Maybe like, okay, now you got to tell us what that is. So again, I think what I would propose is just to move forward with the traffic study as is. And then as we continue on, and if there's more refinement, the site plan can be amended. So, I mean, you know, that's.
I guess what I'm trying to say is, look, the Butters Group is here. Let them present and discuss what they are, and then you can approve it. But if you approve the site plan and the traffic study right now, you could be turning around saying, wait a minute. So
We're not approving the site plan right now. Right, but the traffic study is not including the Boca Paddle Group building. It's for the site plan of the north and the southeast corners of the park, correct? Of the recreational space. That's what we're doing the traffic study for. If they have to do another traffic study, they will do another traffic study if the city tells them to do another traffic study, or they can use the traffic study that we are possibly approving tonight. We approved a work order for them to move forward on the northeast and southeast corners for this purpose, right? So
I do not agree with that design or plan for a lot of reasons. And I'm just saying the traffic study is based on a site plan. And this is your site plan that we're seeing in detail for the first time, which potentially could change.
and we had the work order, we voted on it for Miller Lake to do it. Is this the first time that we've seen this? No.
Well,
We've
in
seen
detail
this.
like that,
No, we have seen this before. We have definitely seen this before.
you and I have a
We're
different
going
recall on it.
backwards.
That's all. We have a different recall of what we saw in detail and whatnot. And so I'm just saying it's ignoring the value of the hotel site. The layout of it is going to consume a lot of land. That whole area is the one area of the whole property that has the infrastructure to do anything with it, which makes it valuable. So it needs to be thought out in one whole piece. We spent a lot of time, more time focused on the north part of the east side, which I'm all in with. I agree with how that's designed. This is the first time we're getting deeper into this. With what happened at the joint meeting was, oh, we're going to have Jeffrey Street come through. You said, I didn't know about that. Okay. We all kind of thought it was going to go through, but then we say, okay, now you have to factor in a tunnel, other things. How is it going to look? And now
This
we're
is
getting into
just the site plan for the northeast and southeast side for the recreation part of it. If a hotel, if that's what our commission decides to vote in favor of, they would have to go ahead and do a traffic study for their hotel site in a separate from this. Right. So this is like the next step that Miller Lake says is in the process to move forward with the northeast and southeast corner. Is that correct? Okay. So obviously we're on different pages, right? So do we have a motion to move forward with the traffic study for? There was a motion. Okay. Do we have a second? Okay. Do we have any more discussion on this? Okay. Go ahead.
Commissioner Ernst?
No.
Rollins? Commissioner Vogelsang?
yes.
Commissioner Wright?
Yes.
Motion passes 4-1.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to number 3, the Boca Paddle Club Racket Sports Facility Presentation.
Commissioners, Mr. Butters is here tonight with his team. I'll have him introduce everybody and present what they have. And Mr. Butters, we have that other image up too, when you're ready for it.
That work? Well, thank you again for having our team here and everyone today. Just to start off with, you know, that representation that was on the Miller Lake, that's not the final site plan. So we're in the very early stages. Obviously, we're going to get a lot of input from the board. So I wouldn't necessarily zero in on that last graphic, but we want to thank you. We're here really to assure you that we're going to work with the board and with the public. And we took all the comments from the last couple meetings into this presentation, trying to assure everyone we're family friendly. And there's going to be a lot of possibilities for future elements and flexibility for the board, including potentially if you guys wanted the YMCA or a field house and some of the other things we mentioned. The traffic study, again, I do agree. I think the city's going to make us do our own traffic study. We will go ahead and probably piggyback off whoever Miller Lake is using. I don't know, do you guys is Miller Lake the traffic, or you sub it out to Kimberly Horn or somebody like that? Or yeah, so we would probably use the same ones and make it a lot easier and a lot fluid. I think the timing for the Miller Lake presentation, I think we could probably, if we move quick enough, we could catch up with the city, because knowing the city, and you know, we've built probably more than anyone in recent memory, they will start asking about our project too and how it incorporates into this. And they're not necessarily the fastest moving city. So I'll leave it at that. On sustainability too, I'm glad to see that. And we're here to tell you that we intend to make it a sustainable LEED certified type of building too. So I think that's going to be a nice element that the city will be proud of. But anyways, I'd like to just, you know, introduce again a team. My beautiful wife, Catherine's here. She grew up in the city of Boca Raton. She's on a team. Brian Levine's here. Brian's one of our partners. He's also one of the commissioners at Major League Pickleball. CEO of Major League Pickleball. He's on the board of Major League Pickleball and a former CEO. Mitch Robbins needs no introduction too. Mitch is our partner on the ice rink here in Boca Raton. He also owns Farmer's Table, Red Pine Restaurant, and the Wyndham Hotel. So we have a tremendous, and Stuart Davis is not with us, but we have an all local team, not to mention our star architect, Mr. Juan Caicedo from Arcadis, formerly known as RLC, also a Boca Raton firm. He's going to walk you through the presentation. And then we'd like to open up to question and answers, and then talk about maybe just scheduling and where we go from here. So again, thank you. And we look forward to working with you, and I'll bring up Mr. Juan Caicedo.
Good afternoon, Juan Caicedo, 7000 North Federal Highway, Boca Raton. And I'd like to start with your slogan. Actually, I was reading building better communities. And I think that actually is very much in line with what we are seeking to do here. We're actually building a building that is very much in line with that slogan, a building that is actually going to be a family-oriented building that not only is going to have the activities of the paddle and the pickleball courts. Sure. Not only is going to have the pickleball and the paddle courts indoor and outdoors, we also have rooms inside for family activities and for events. It also has, and I don't know, let me see if I can, I can move the slides. Yeah. All right. So this plan, actually, this is a conceptual floor plan that shows the indoor facility on the top two layers or the top two tiers of this plan. Actually shows the indoor courts, including the paddle and pickleball. As you come into the building, you'll have a two-story atrium type of space with a mezzanine above that, and then the pro shop and the support facilities for the building. And the yellow there is actually an area that is actually dedicated for family events, for community events. And then on the top, on the bottom tier, you see a line in the lighter blue color. Those are the outdoor courts that actually are placed on the east side of the facility to really make sure that these are far away from the residents on the north, I mean on the west. This is the plan of the mezzanine. I don't want to bore you with the description, but here actually shows you some graphics or some images of what we're intending to do inside this the building. Again, it's a very family-oriented facility with the pro shop, the courts, obviously, and activities for the families and the kids to enjoy the place. Again, going back to your slogan, building better communities. This shows you some views of what it will look like from the mezzanine, looking down into the courts. And these two images, this image here at the bottom left, I mean right side, is actually an image of a hurricane shelter facility. So this building actually could service that purpose as well, if there's a need for in an emergency for the building to be used in that fashion. Problem in technology. The building is actually, we think is going to be a very iconic building, not only in its placement. And by the way, I neglected to mention the siding of the building. And when we looked at the siding of the building, we actually placed it in a position in that north-south orientation to allow for the access to the south portion of the park if something else was going to be developed in there, and even for the trails that you have shown in your master plan. But it's very important that actually the building also engages the Cleanmore Road in a very significant way. We are proposing to do a park-like space, more like an urban park, where art could be exhibited in there. So it becomes again part of the community. It's another place where the community could be engaged, invited students, kids, and just regular bypassers could come to the park and enjoy that more urban setting of the park, where you have more of the suburban trails and the nature on the south side. This is actually an image, a conceptual image of what that park could look like. On my right side here will be Cleanmore Road, or the extension of Jeffrey Street, and then the park and the building in the background, which actually it's inspired on some of the elements that are used for playing pickleball. So this actually is the net of the courts actually serves as a screen that is going to be allowing for some vines to grow on the facade, so the building becomes very green in its appearance. More images of that frontage. This is actually showing Jeffrey Street right here. We're standing on the north part. are the outdoor courts, which are again on the east side of the building. Is sensitive to the community to the west. Thank you. Anyway, so I think that the whole idea is really to create not only a sustainable building, a building that is going to be LEED certified. It's a building for the community, and it's an iconic building. It's a building that actually will create a gateway from the east coming into this area, and actually will landmark these sites as a recreational type of place where you have the trails and the courts and the building kind of landmarking that area. It's going back to the same images, right? Yeah, these are the same images. Yeah. Anyway, so that's what we have. I think again, I love the slogan because the slogan is very much in line with what we are thinking of doing, which is building a building that is significant for the community and a building that actually will become an iconic and attractive building, a destination place, and a building that actually is flexible to provide different activities for the community, including obviously the main purpose with the paddle and the pickleball facility. If you have any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer.
Well, I think it looks pretty good.
Thank you.
And I really think that I like what you came up with for the green design. My question to you would be, do you think that the placement and design of the building will further block the sound of the trains going by or anything like that for the homeowners over there?
Absolutely. Actually, we play with the, let me go back to we play with the orientation of the building, and that was one of the key components. It's not only the noise that is produced by the train going by, but also by the noise that might come out of the players playing pickleball. And so the idea of placing the building this way is also a buffer for that type of noise. In fact, if you look into this graphic, and I don't know if you have copies of them, you'll see as a little keynote down here, there are even sound walls that are actually flanking the outdoor courts on the south and the north sides of these courts. So yeah, all of this is part of that.
I think it's really good. My one thought for you, and maybe you could work it in or not, is we have encountered that the heat, the sun is a lot. And we're doing a lot of effort now to try to, whether it's put sails or shade in. So even your outdoor courts, as beautiful as they are, if you just kind of factor in some level of shade, whether it's sails without disturbing the iconic beauty of what you designed here, would be wonderful.
Absolutely. We'll look into that. Jeffrey?
We haven't quite opened it up to the public yet. And you can't speak from the audience unless you're at the podium. So if we can just wait a few minutes, and we'll finish the commissioner's comments first, questions, and then we'll move on to the audience. Thank you.
It's a beautiful building. I have had emails, Mr. Butters, I know you have had emails from some of the public, from some of the families that want an outdoor space of some kind where the kids can play cornhole or Connect Four or something while the parents are playing. Is there any possibility of adding a space where they can grab some of their great food from Mr. Robbins and go outside or someplace in the facility and have the kids running around and have connectivity between couples or families and let them recreate as well as socialize at the same time.
Yeah, no, always a possibility, Commissioner. And also, like, I'd like to point out that one didn't point out, like on this plan, again, it's flexible. To Craig's comment, you know, we have created, at least conceptually right now, a main boulevard that is designed to think about the future. So if you look at, I don't know if I have a pointer or if I could point, but maybe one, or I could point out, you know, that main road is designed now, it's, you know, it's a divided road. So if you somehow develop the south end of the lot, you know, there's a connection, there's already a boulevard. It's designed also if you need to use our parking lot or people that want to use the trail, it's taking that into consideration. The old hotel site, if you notice that, there's a connection to that now. So if it becomes a hotel or a field house, potentially that we've thought out a lot of that. And of course, with Miller Leg's input on the design of the road. And then to the north, I don't know if you could see it clearly, but we were open to the Y. I know there was a lot of people who said, oh, they'd like to see a Y because of the field house and some of the different activities they bring. So there's a way to incorporate, you know, if you wanted to, the Y or another type of activity to the north. So we've kind of thought it through a little. So a lot of flexibility. To Commissioner Ernst's comments, you know, we're trying to think ahead on that. And then on the inside, and maybe I can let Brian or talk about, you know, we have things for the kids inside.
Maybe. Yeah, sure. So if you could see here, I don't know if everyone can see, but that yellow area is intended to be a children's play area. It's flexible. There's two other courts in the white spots. That's a flexible area as well. So, you know, it gives us a lot of ability to do things other than pickleball. And another thing it also could add is potentially, you know, there's a lot of demand for indoor courts for tournaments from potentially professional facilities. And that gives us an ability to make that court that's between the yellow and white, potentially a center court, because you could put stands in then on three separate sides. And you also have that mezzanine that Juan mentioned before, that's 7,100 square feet, that will actually have a view over the main courts as well. So it gives us a lot of flexibility, both for whether it's for children's activities or other activities, or potentially for seating if we want to do an event.
Windows or skylights?
Yeah, well, skylights, yes. You know, we've had discussions about windows. I think generally the view is that you don't want to have natural light coming in. It kind of messes with shadows. And if we want to have it as a shelter as well, obviously it's better not to have windows. So I think we're leaning against doing that.
This is also directed to Micro, because we talked about connectivity between the north and the south portion at one point because of the traffic that's coming down eventually Jeffrey Street, potentially if the city opens it up, is we had talked about dropping in a tunnel between the two north and the south parcel. I couldn't tell from the layout whether there was space for that in the design that we had out there, whether or not.
Yeah, we talked about the tunnel.
Yes,
Jeffrey and the
yes,
potential
right.
I think if we go back to the other slide. There
Right.
we did, I think you can't see it, but there is a area left in for like a pedestrian tunnel to go
Okay.
underneath. So
Right.
again, with the help of the Miller Leg team, we've thought that through, and there's a footnote there.
Perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, I couldn't tell that by looking at it from.
Yeah,
from
it's
this
hard to tell
viewpoint,
from
So,
here.
yeah,
No, because again, we're thinking and we're trying to think as much as we can. Again, whatever, if it's walking trails or bike trails, and people want to go from the racket, the pickleball paddle club to the trails or the dog park, or again, if there's another activity there, a field house, a YMCA, we figure that it could flow seamlessly, right? You could park on one side, you could walk to one, walk to the other. The kids could walk back and forth in theory safely. So we're we're open to that. And to commission, and to Susan's point, like we have those outdoor pickleball courts to something, it could be a basketball court. It could be a lot of different things, right now. We have that flexibility because there's enough room.
First, I'd like to thank you guys for coming down tonight and giving us a little insight. You had mentioned a mezzanine. Would that or another space within the building be available for local community events? At one point, there was a facility whereby residents of Boca Chica, the surrounding communities, could hold community events. Would there be a space for that?
Yeah, I don't know if there's a community room per se, but obviously that's going to be an open space. One of our plans is to have corporate events there, and Brian could speak to it. Brian's a former partner at Goldman Sachs, and just in New York City, City Pickle, which is one of the people we had in our package, they had a bunch of corporate events. You can imagine it's a team building type of event. Corporations, they would lease the facility. There's a lot of companies in Boca that would love that. And I'm sure we could have charity events and fundraisers. And, it's a pretty wide open space. And again, like Brian said, is designed to act as a shelter in the event of some emergency, like a hurricane. So there's a lot of flexibility built into that.
I do like the sustainability part of it, where you're gonna try to achieve certified or hopefully silver. I don't know about gold, but obviously you're gonna try to be as efficient as possible with the mechanical systems and the lighting and all that good stuff. There was no mention of solar panels. Obviously, I don't think you guys had that in your proposal from the beginning, right? I don't think so.
I don't think we really had that level of detail. We haven't thought it through yet.
Yeah.
It's a possibility. but-
Obviously, efficiency would come first. But if that was an option in terms of any rebates or whatever that are out there. But I just want to stress again what Susie said, and from my side of things, and from where I live and the people that are surrounded in that area, I don't see much of a family friendly aspect to this. I totally get it. It's a serious paddle pickleball facility. But I don't see any like covered areas where families can go and just hang out and enjoy the outdoors and like view the park and use the trails and stuff like that. I don't see that on here right now. And I'm just curious on how you're gonna blend the landscaping and the vision that we have for the park with what we have here. I don't want it to look like we have this very natural South Florida native species looking, shaded park with trails and things like that, and then we plop like a big paddle facility right in the corner of it that kind of like sticks out, that doesn't blend in with the rest of the park.
Yeah.
So
I think the thought is, Commissioner, I think what we're going to do is Juan did a great job initially to create green walls. So I think it's not going to be just concrete box. There'll be green walls. I don't know if you're familiar with the IPIC Theater in Delray. We built that for the IPIC people. Has that beautiful green wall along Fifth Avenue. So to have something like that, so to kind of blend in more, we could use the same landscape architects. I'm not sure if Miller Leg, are you guys doing the landscape architect? So we would use them not only on the civil, but on the landscaping. So that would, I think, create a lot of continuity and cohesiveness in the design. So that's what we're thinking, as we're moving forward here. That's kind of the things that, as to the family friendly, the RFP was to create, a racket, pickleball paddle facility. So, I guess we're relying on a lot of the city for the trails and, the park-like element for the family thing. This is a facility. We're going to have daycare. We're going to have activities for the family while, either kids play racquetball or pickleball or padel or take element. So I think we're going to do it. We have we're open to things on the outside, which would be cornhole or, basketball. So, we're taking, all that into consideration. It's hard for us to incorporate everything to be cohesive for everything, but I think working with the district and working with, your trails and your shaded areas, and, we have that park out front, that one. So, described, I think, we could have more shaded elements there that would help to that. But I think that's why this collaborative effort's going to start taking shape.
I think you've got a wonderful project. And I think that maybe some of we had several different options there when you were selected, some of which got into more of an entertainment facility than a serious pickleball facility. And I think just by the people I know that are avid pickleball players, and I haven't not met anybody that wasn't an avid pickleball player. I think that the way you've designed it, the way you have positioned it, I think you've taken into consideration a lot of our concerns. And I think that, some of the family activity may not rise to the level of something like the chicken and pickle, but this was the proposal that unanimously was accepted by I can't say unanimously, you outpointed anybody else. And I think this is what we were looking for as a facility, just as you've described there, and the green space that you've put outside and the way that the architect has made that somewhat of a plaza out there with the green space there. I think it just fits in perfectly with the park.
No,
I really
thank
do.
you. I think the Chicken and Pickle and some of the other guys, they're great companies. It's a different vision, right? If you look at their business model, it's driven 80-90% revenue, food and beverage base, right? The pickleball is kind of secondary. The city wanted, and something that I think it has relates to more recreational. Plus, when you get into chicken pickle, it opens up a whole can of worms with the city, with traffic and all that. This is, light on traffic. I think it's going to be easier also for the neighboring residents, when you get into, again, some of these chicken pickles and outdoor venues and loud music. We're not like that, right? We're trying to create a lot of indoors, trying to be friendly neighbors. There's people in Boca Chica, there's people to the east of us. We have to be respectful, and I think we're doing a pretty good job. And we have a lot of work to do, so we're going to do a great job and make the city happy, and hopefully the district happy.
I think you'll make the district very happy because it's a wonderful proposal, Mr. Butters. Thank you very much for
thank you.
The presentation this evening.
Okay, I guess we'll open it up.
Yeah, I just wanted one other thing, Commissioner. There was a slide that I mentioned to Brianne. We as a team here, we were just curious as to next steps. In our initial proposal, we had put together a schedule, and we all know working with the city is not always the fastest route to get anything done. And that's, it's hard probably to see, but the start date is now. Kind of our end target date is the summer of 25. That assumes that between, let's say, now and end of the year, we work towards some sort of concession agreement. And then in the beginning of next year, we could start developing plans. So we get them into the city, the beginning of the year, hopefully get site plan approval towards the middle of next year, and then get the plans finished and through permitting, and then start construction, the beginning of 25 and end of 24. And we just wanted to know if there's any feedback or what the vision is for the district on schedule and what our path is from here.
Our next step, if everybody's comfortable, would be that our legal counsel would work with their legal counsel on the concession agreement. Just want to get direction tonight that everybody's comfortable moving forward with putting that agreement together. So we can get that done by the end of the year.
Because we think we could work on a dual track. Again, the city is not the fastest. We have 3 projects into the city now. It takes a while to get on any agenda. Planning and zoning, I think you'll find, I don't think Miller Lake, with all due respect, probably won't be on the November agenda for the trail thing, because they have to advertise and you have to do the traffic study. Then they're going to go through a whole process. But I think we can run, if we start now and we run our physical process, with the planning and with input from everybody, and then the legal track at the same time, I think that would be wise.
Butters Council, we'd be happy to take that direction.
I think it's a good idea, but I come back to this traffic study that we just did. I would use their plan because they need to be the same. You're very close. I understand you have to do them separate, but it's just layout and design is different. Just use the same visual. You know, I mean, they have to work together a little bit. So it's, you know, visually, they can go, I understand they're going to do their own, but just make it look the same, cohesive.
Miller Lake has to give us the guidance on what they're submitting, what you guys are doing for your traffic study. So
I guess, again, I kind of said, you know, I think we should move forward with the traffic study as it is, because I think there's a lot of unknowns on this, on the pickleball site right now. I mean, we haven't tied that, it hasn't been tied down as an engineered or anything, and how it relates to what we've got right now with what we have at the park, you know, adjacent to it. So if it's gonna be tied together, I mean, we won't get our site plan in, you know, as expeditiously as we thought. It's gonna be it's gonna hold that up.
we already, right. You are moving forward with your site plan, the traffic study for the site plan, and we're good with that. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I think that we'll have to do a site plan for the pickleball facility no matter what. And again, I think probably got to get a little further along than where we are for this one, for the park.
Okay, so we need then direction for the,
Direction to begin coordinating a concession agreement
Right.
of some sort.
yes.
Then Madam Chair, I'd make a motion that we move forward jointly with the concession agreement to a proper conclusion.
Second.
Susie. Okay, roll call.
Commissioner Ernst? Commissioner Engel? Commissioner Vogels?
Yes. Okay. So now we will open it up to the public comment or questions or whatever you might have for Mr. Butters. So if you would go up to the microphone and you have 3 minutes, please say your name and your address.
Hello, Sil, like pencil. Siliberti, 6200 Northwest Second Avenue, Boca Raton. First of all, I don't think we could have gotten luckier to get a developer that could actually get this done. And I think they did Chicken and Pickle a favor, honestly, because, and I'm not the only one that thinks it. They can actually produce it, and we all know that, and we're all very pleased. And that being said, I'd like to just let you know, Sandpine Park has 2 tennis courts, 2 basketball courts. Hidden Lake Park, 2 tennis courts. El Rio Park, 2 tennis courts, 2 basketball courts. Patrice Park, 6 basketball courts. Sugar Sand Park, 11 basketball courts. Colonnades, 2 tennis, 1 basketball. Rutherford, 1 tennis, 1 basketball. University, 2 tennis, 3 basketball. Lake Wyman, 1 tennis, 1 basketball. Now, we have 12 tennis courts, 27 basketball courts mentioned require you to register, do not require to register to Pro Shop. They're all free, no pay to play. For pickleball, we have 4 courts at the southern edge of District El Rio Park. If you go there, you bring a book because you'll have a lot of time to catch up on all your reading between the games. It's unbelievable. After Boca National Golf Course plans got scrapped due to unforeseen circumstances, Miller Lake held initial design phase, 2 workshops, a concept master plan, 2 mail-in master plan 2, a mail-in survey, program development commission meeting, and a visionary workshop. And there's a master plan to determine future need. There was a new white canvas of 212 acres known as North Park now. It was always envisioned to be a unique park due to its location and east-west footprint and close proximity, well over to 1,000 residents. All studies came up green, green, as in green space with an overwhelming theme, trails, paths, and green preservation. Correct me if I'm wrong, but nowhere was the need to duplicate amenities already offered in abundance in our local parks. They didn't come up in our needs, seemingly logical because perhaps they were not needed. They were not desired or planned. Basketball never came up. Tennis was not well represented, and I barely made a green dot on our poster board exercise. Neither did a pool or splashy pad, but I digress for clarity. Keep an eye on the pickleball. It's green. What I'm suggesting, Boca Paddle, build their fee-based indoor and outdoor covered fee-based pickleball and build 6 free standalone pickleball courts free for us. There's no better attractor factor that I know of as free. I've contacted almost everyone in the Butters group. They were all receptive and took time out of their busy and, quite frankly, impressive careers to correspond back to me with one common theme. We're going to go and do the right thing for what's best for the nearby residents and district as a whole. Doing the right thing is providing something that is scarce. People drive out of the district to find it. I know so many people that leave and go to nearby Burt Aronson, South County, and
Sorry,
Cluesman
Sal.
Park.
You got your 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Harold Chaffee, 6200 Northwest Second Avenue. I'm the president of Keep Golf from Boca. I have to agree with Erin. I really see a commercial building here. I really don't see anything recreational. I know that pickleball is recreational, but I don't see really fitting in with a park. It seems like it's just going to keep on growing and growing. You're going to have a hotel. You're going to have this. It's all commercial. You know, I don't see anything really for the neighbors or basically for the area. I know apparently Jeffrey Street is going to come through eventually, I guess. I don't know. They have their fingers crossed. I think the railroad's giving them trouble. But I really don't see anything as far as recreational. And that's what you hear. Isn't that the park and recreation? You know, I like to see something more done there. I know this is probably only conceptual. I hope this isn't the original. I know we have to have more meetings, not more meeting, but more direction as far as more detailed as far as they're going to do, because I noticed also the mountain bike trails are gone. The trails are gone. You have a tunnel that goes to nowhere. It's a tunnel, but it doesn't go anywhere. It isn't anywhere near the main corridor that they talked about having, like a crossroad. I just think that it needs a little more attention before you go approving it. Thank you.
Thank you, Harold. Anybody else?
Commissioners, I'm Raul Travieso, 1037 West Royal Palm Road in Boca. I'm the USA Pickleball Florida Southeast District Ambassador. I also serve as the president of the Boca Raton Pickleball Club. If you recall, I think there were 4 of you on the board back in 2016 when I talked about pickleball, and you guys looked at me like I had a third eye. You know, here we are today. I can't believe it. You know, I'm so gratified that pickleball has become the sport that it has become. I congratulate the Butters Group for being awarded this project. It's, like I said, the plans are really beautiful. I think the folks in the neighborhood and also the citizens of Boca are really going to enjoy this place. It's a family sport that can be played from 3 years old, because I taught 3 years old kids this summer, to 93-year-olds. So this is the sport for everybody. I love this whole thing. And I also know that this commission will also have a wonderful golf concept in this park. So that's not gonna go away. But I do really appreciate the fact that pickleball has come up to the level that it has. And I again congratulate the Butters Group for doing such a wonderful job and for being awarded the project. Thank you.
Anybody else? Nope. Okay, we will close public comment. We'll do approval of payroll and invoices, please.
Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion for approval of payroll and invoices in the amount of $138,717.32.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Yes. Reports and discussion items, Director Harms.
Here's just a brief report. I attended city council meeting this past week. The naming rights for the tower was back on the city council with a new resolution confirming the donation that we received. So that was on their consent agenda. It passed unanimously. That was great. They also introduced the ordinance to designate a portion of Patch Reef as conservation land, and they will hear that ordinance on October 24th at City Council, so I'll attend that. This weekend I attended the event that was at Patch Reef Park put on by the YMCA for painting pumpkins. I had a 10-year-old that decided to paint herself and a couple of pumpkins, so it was fun. But it was a great event and well attended, and it was nice to see people in the community center enjoying themselves and having a good time. So that's it.
For council?
Madam Chair, I have.
Okay, commissioners, Steve, you wanna go first?
Just one thing. Maybe if council could elucidate on, I like that word, practiced all week. On the part of our charter covering any conveyance of property to the city. Is this allowed under our special charter?
The short answer, Commissioner, is any proposal, any deal, any agreement that we bring back to this commission to consider will be consistent with your charter. So the short answer is yes.
Thank you.
Greg?
Yep, Madam Chair, I think we should consider that next year is going to be the 50th anniversary of the district, as I understand it. And I think we should start thinking ahead of what maybe we can do to honor that in some way or form, whatever that is. And one thing to consider is maybe like a design of something or a t-shirt or something that is out there. I don't know what that is. I'm just throwing out there some ideas, and I'd like to investigate some ideas further and maybe come back to the board before the end of the year so we can kind of think through not letting that special moment go by the wayside.
So homework assignment, just go brainstorm 50th anniversary idea for the district.
Talk to the city event staff too. They'd probably be willing to help us out a little bit.
Bob?
Chair.
I got an email about the tower from a lady who her name is Jenny, and I emailed her back, and it was I said, Jenny, please introduce yourself when we do have the opening of the tower. And she emailed me back and she says, well, hopefully she's 98 years old, so she wants to attend, and this is the impact that we are having on our community building this tower, and I'm really proud of it.
I have nothing, so.
Sure.
Okay, Joanne?
Commissioner Ringo? Commissioner Rollins?
Yes. Yes. We are adjourned.